So, thanks for coming. Am I blowing the audio out yet? We're recording this one, so please keep the language, it's going to be difficult for me as well, but keep it nice and polite. We're all friends here. Yeah, so what's my Mac admin toolbox, really? Had to put the obligatory matron. It's got a lot on Slack, actually, as well, which is helpful. So a couple of you guys will know me. Darren Wallace, Apple consultant at Amsys, been there now over 10 years now. Bit lazy, to be honest. I live around the corner, and so it was quite convenient. I'm on Slack and Twitter under that handle. Mac Admin Slack, I will highly recommend people get on there if they're not already. Good bunch of community on there. Let's stuck into it. So, I'd like to keep the analogy going, kind of toolbox compartments. Now, it's kind of a lot of tools I use. And a hell of a lot of tools. And initially brainstorming this session, I ended up with a list of maybe about 100, 200 things. Obviously, doing that in an hour would just be me reading off a list of applications and URLs, which isn't that fun, really. As part of the brainstorming, that's kind of the kind of areas I subdivided it into. And most of those did not make the cut, so I've restricted it to troubleshooting and resources, the last two sort of on the list. Feel free to come and grab me about anything else here tonight, any other evenings, when there's events on Twitter, Slack, whatever. I'm always happy to share my experiences with bits and pieces on that, really. So, jumping in, troubleshooting tools. So I've subdivided these again because it makes more slides and makes it sort of bulks it out a little bit. So Active Directory tools, the main one I've used a lot is Centrify's AD Check. Bit of a cheeky one, this, because actually it comes with part of the free Centrify solution you can kind of download and play around with. It's very simple, it's free, so everyone likes that. They require some details. Now, I didn't say this, but they don't email you a link, you get a link on the following page. So what details you put in is down to you. I would recommend you use your proper details. Simple, it's full of loads of information. It's good for if you've got, if you're a consultant, for example, and you go out to a new place and machines aren't binding to AD and you want to find out what on earth's going on. So main website, literally you fill in these boxes here, hit download now and you get a nice big link. So it's a Centrify agent is what you're looking for. That's kind of what they called it. By the way, URLs for all of these are going to be on a blog post. It's going to go up, I've been told, in the next 3 minutes. And there'll be a URL at the end for that. So we'll direct you to that. So if you want to grab stuff, go for it. That's the kind of the DMG you get from the download. Essentially, the one bit you want is that nicely highlighted thing there. It's a drag and drop app, so you can stick it on a USB stick and always have it with you, or you can just re-download it at every site you go to. Why not? That's the interface you get. So you bung your domain in the top, you run the AD check button, and it comes back with a load of bits and pieces here. Now, I have used a fake domain on there, which is why it's failed the DNS check. But essentially what it will do is it will probe the DNS servers for the AD domain. It will pull back all the records. It will then check all those AD servers, DNS servers for the AD entries and make sure they all have matching entries. So you don't have a DNS server that might have the wrong entries that your Mac happens to be talking to when you're trying to bind the thing. It also has a couple of bits of port scanning, that kind of thing, just to see what the right ports are open for communications. You get warnings and you get fails. So on the previous one, I had a fail there, which means it's not going to work, full stop. That one's a warning. So one of the fake DNS servers I chucked in there was not a live one. So it failed on that test. It's a really good tool for this. It's great just to kind of, again, external consultant, I go on site, machine's not binding, I need to give the customer something to look at. Because it might be that maybe the Windows machines are working fine, but they're talking to a different DNS server that's functioning. My Mac servers might be on a separate VLAN with separate DNS settings, talking to a dead DNS server or a wrong DNS server or that kind of thing. It's just a nice little freebie tool to kind of get that sort of information and those sort of tests running. Next one, cheated a little bit. This is an Apple tool. I'm sure most of you have heard of this, if not all of you, especially if you're involved with AD. It's free, funnily enough. You already use it to configure your AD plugin settings, that kind of stuff, the advanced settings. One of the cool things I use this for is with Casper. If I'm going again to a new customer site, I want to integrate the Casper server into their AD. You need to do it kind of, the automatic way tends to be a bit iffy and you do it manually. The tool they recommend, which actually is another great tool that actually didn't make the cut here as well, is the Apache directory browser, directory utility? Studio. So, yeah. It's another great tool, but it's quite convoluted and quite complicated. This one, all you do is you bind your machine to it, you fire up directory utility. Again, 10.8 was in there. Before 10.8 it was in utilities. 10 onwards it's now in here. And essentially you get that last tab called directory editor. So you're in here. Again, credit to Ben Toms, Mac Mule. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of him if you've ever Googled anything to do with Mac issues in an environment. And essentially you launch the app, click the last tab. You make sure that you set that option to be your domain. And so there's your computer records in that domain. Quite a lot of things to do in Casper is you want to find out like what user, the exact kind of AD names for things that you might not get very clearly out of a customer potentially, or out of your AD guy potentially. Also makes you a bit more self-sufficient as well. You can kind of just get on with it rather than waiting for an answer. Someone might be really helpful, but they might be busy for that day, week, month. This way you can kind of help yourself out. And there, for example, I've got that would be the attribute I would link in Casper to be someone's email address, for example, potentially. Bearing in mind this was a dummy AD, so that might not be 100% right for the correct attribute, so don't take that as gospel. But for example, you could pull out and say, this attribute maps to email address in Casper. So then if you want to send emails out to people, you know to make sure that's mapped properly in your AD settings on there. So two quite simple tools. Direct utility is quite an unusual use. I wasn't aware of this until I read it on Ben Tom's blog. So it's a nice little thing that means you don't have to download anything extra. All you need is Mac bound to AD and access to directory utility even. Right, moving on swiftly. Anti-malware. One big recommendation on this, used to be Adware Medic, it's now been bought out by Malwarebytes. I've been hearing good things still since it's been bought out, and it does seem to be okay. They haven't done any kind of weirdness because the guy's been bought out. But it's a great tool, again, free, simple, and it works. It's nothing as complex as a full AV solution, but what's becoming more popular on Macs nowadays is kind of your adware that's injecting ads and redirects into your browsers. So again, website, nice big fat get my free download. You get a nice little drag and drop app. So nothing too fancy there. It means you can again stick it on a USB stick. That could be if you have a USB stick as your toolkit, for example. AD Check, things like this. Drag them on there, leave them on there, and you just plug it into whatever machine you need to do work on that. You run the scan. It's not the prettiest of things, if I'm honest, when it does the scan. But essentially, you get a nice scan complete if there's no problems, or it tells you a lot of issues that you might have, or things it's detected as issues. Scans are quick, about 5, 10, 15 minutes tops. Obviously, if you've got a machine that's got a dying hard drive or one of the lovely brand new Mac Minis that still ships with a 5400 RPM drive, it might take a bit longer. It will try and clean these up for you as well. Not always successful, but it will do a pretty good job at doing it. I think I've had once when it wasn't successful, but I had the full path in there, so I could just literally do it manually. Fire up terminal, switch the root, clear it out, whatever it is. Yes, it's just, again, another nice free tool. Why not? Why say no? Right, next section, monitoring. Now, many years ago, Dave and I got a bit sad, worked in the evenings, developed our own monitoring solution for Macs. It's one of those changes you get and you think, yeah, this is quite interesting. I'll have a go at this. We've since moved on. We now use a product we've called it MRM, Mac Resource Monitor. It's actually to do with Watchmen. So, bit of a plug, in all honesty, available to our contract customers. And also, they are sponsoring our MacDuck even, I like to call it. The conference that we're hosting a little bit later on in the year. I'll do a bit more about it later. But essentially, it's based, so it's a rebranded version of Watchmen, essentially. Got a ton of information out of this, absolute ton. So this is kind of a summary. I've cut it at my laptop because I've taken the plunge and put my laptop's information up there, and not the rest of Amsys. So essentially, you have groups which are essentially organizations of machines. So we have an Amsys one for our internal stuff. We then have a customer, one per customer, maybe one per customer site if we so wished. What you can do is you can see just you get a nice summary page. So you've got your computer list with the more computers essentially the same as this below. You get any warnings, any expirations which are to do with sort of warranty expirations, that kind of thing. It will integrate with GSX, which is Apple's global service exchange solution that AASPs have access to. Basically can do serial number checks, warranty checks, that kind of thing. You get a lot of information out of it. That's a small subset. So again, serial numbers. It will pull information from any monkey catalogs that are configured on it. It will pull other information which I've got in the next slide, so I won't skip ahead yet. So you've got the model information, model identifiers, version numbers of software, that kind of thing. So when a customer calls you up with an issue, you can go in and see the history of the machine and say, hang on a sec, you called me up with an issue with crashing. Yesterday you were on Yosemite, now you're on El Capitan. What's going on? That kind of gives you kind of a little bit of a feedback backwards in that respect. And just a lot of general information. You get sort of the capacity of the root drive from memory. I'm going to stop doing it from memory and I'm going to get to the slide eventually. That'll be a bit better. These are the main integrations they list. So again, you've got GSX, BombGuard, Casper. It'll actually put a URL in there. It'll pull from the client machine its ID number for GSX, for Casper. It will pull the URL for the Casper server, put those together, and have a nice little clickable link on the side. So you can go straight to the computer's record in Casper. Auto log stickers and index. That's, you love it when I go to a new site. I install this on 50, 100 Macs, and they get 50 or 100 calls logged for things that they didn't have to deal with. It's great. Good fob-off tool as well. Not that I do that. I hope it helps us and watch this afterwards. LogMe integration, TeamViewer integration as well. It pulls, I don't know if you saw on a previous slide there, TeamViewer ID, which I blanked out for intentional reasons. So it's nice and sort of, integrates with all these different things. And if there's anything that's not on there, speak with them. They will work with you. We haven't had to use that service yet because there's enough there for us, but it is a possibility. They're a nice bunch of guys. And it's the same with their plugins for detecting things. If it's something custom you want to detect, you can either get them to help you out building it, or you can write it yourself, and they've got a system where you could submit your own sort of. If you're a Casper user, it's like an extension attribute. If you're a Monkey user, it's like the conditional items you can custom build for checks and that sort of thing, really. It's so easy. It's literally, you know how to use GitHub, you know how to write the extension attributes, you and your own element, essentially. So there's the integration as an example. So connected TeamViewer and Casper. Nice. It just makes it nice and simple. Even if you never use this interface, having the fact it can monitor all your machines and integrate with Zendesk for us using Zendesk, brilliant. It will monitor them for that, really. So it's a couple of things. So helpful, loads of helpful stuff on there, really. I can't really recommend it enough. I do miss the fact that we were potentially going to be working on a newer version of our own monitoring system, because it was kind of fun. But then again, if someone else does it better already, is it a waste of time to do it yourself?
Are they even cheaper than your hourly rate?
It might well be. That's probably a mention for it's probably a question for my boss in the corner over there. Maybe not. Definitely cheaper than Dave's. Definitely cheaper than Dave's. But yeah, and I've spoken to a few of the guys, and as I say, they're sponsoring the conference. Do you know if they're speaking at the conference?
No, they're going to have a table.
They're going to have a table, probably a deck of cards. Maybe, I'm not too sure, but definitely call them and have a chat with them. Even if you don't want to go for our solution, taking the agnostic view, you want to do it yourselves, you want to have your own version, talk to them. They're a really good bunch of guys. So example, can't do it without an example. So I think it was 2 contract take-ons in 1 week in September. There's only about 20 Macs, so nothing too huge. So did my usual thing. I installed our admin user. I installed our remote troubleshooting solution, and I installed Watchman on those machines. So about 20 of them. Within minutes of doing this and them submitting their initial inventory, which is quicker than Casper's inventory, although it's a lot less, so you can argue the toss on that one. Within a couple of minutes, it found 2 Macs that had, it was the Spigot web redirecting and injection malware. Funny enough, I installed it, went to sit down at my machine. In that time, installed it, checked it, finished its submission. I then sat down at my laptop. I'd already had Zendesk logged 2 calls for it, and the service desk had already forwarded me 2 emails saying, hey, are you going to deal with this or shall we do it? So within minutes, it already detected it. And funny enough, all I'd had to do, again, was grab the other tool, Adware Medic, or Malwarebytes Adware, whatever it's called now, a bit more of a mouthful. Ran that on them, it cleaned them out, job done. Customers didn't know they had it. They were wondering why they were suddenly getting random sort of sales things popping up while they were Googling around. And it was great. And actually, we had another customer who loved customers so much, but they did reinstall the malware afterwards, a couple of days after I'd left. As you do, someone tells you to download stuff, someone tells you to put password in, yeah, go on. And it detected it, and we had another call logged. We jumped on there and said, we'll strip it out. What were you doing? Okay, stay away from that. And there you go. I mean, in all reality, we take the ethos that kind of the customer owns their machine. So if they want to have admin rights, that's for them to do. We'll be there to help them out if there's any issues. So it's a little bit annoying, to be honest. Clean it once and you have to clean it a second time. That's kind of how it appears. So obviously blotted out the culprit, shall we say. And what Watchman's really good, it integrates with Zendesk in such a way that when it logs a call, while that call's open, it mutes the plugin. So you won't get an alert every single time the local client runs and submits up. You'll just have that one alert, that one ticket open. Otherwise, what might happen is you might get within 15 hours, you have 15 calls logged in Zendesk for the exact same thing on the exact same machine, which is completely pointless. And what happens is your services then get used to just deleting them all and you're not really doing a good job. So it mutes the plugin, stops forward it into Zendesk. It then monitors that ticket in Zendesk, and when that ticket closes, it then unmutes the plugin. The theory being you fix the issue, and if you haven't fixed the issue, you want to know that you haven't fixed the issue, and then it will then log another call. So it's quite a nice little automated system. Again, I can't recommend them enough. Whether you go through us, whether you go direct to them, it's one less thing. You could probably build your own solution with Casper. Not all of our customers have Casper though, so this is a nice system that we just chuck on everyone, and it sorts us out quite nicely. Moving on, hard drive / OS sort of solutions. Some of these were kind of very loosely fit into this category because I was struggling to put them in anywhere else. So good old Mac favourite, Disk Warrior. First contact with this was 10 years ago in the workshop. Isn't cheap. So Disk Warrior 5 is about 120 bucks US. So put out 50 quid in real money, but still not the cheapest thing. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe the licensing as well is supposed to be per device, or you pay a much higher premium to do like a more generalized one. So for us in Amsys, we're the more generalized one, and we stick it in a netboot image. So we have, for our workshop guys, we have a diagnostic netboot image that they boot to for troubleshooting the hardware issues. I did have a conversation with someone on either Slack or Twitter about this. It will not fix a failing hard drive most of the time. There's occasionally it will, but it gives it kind of working enough that you can extract your data off it. Which, to be honest, if you've got a hard drive that's failed that badly, you don't really want to fix it and put it back into service. You kind of, once it's got an issue, you kind of want to just write it off and get it replaced. And also, it makes it a lot easier to do that, which when you're in the workshop's a lifesaver. And when you're trying to bomb through getting machines repaired correctly first time, every time, it's nice to be able to go, that means that it's got a hard drive failure, physical hard drive failure. That means you have to swap the hard drive out, which when a customer's complaining of an intermittent issue, to do with crashing and things like that, beach balling, and you see something like that, obviously you verify the fault afterwards and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of a red dot saying, this is the issue. This is what you need to do to kind of, this is what needs to be replaced. So it's quite a nice little indicator in that respect for more of a workshop-y / if you guys end up doing some of your own hardware repairs, or at least if you need to verify that it is a hardware issue before you ship it off. But yeah, so it's a great tool. I say it's got a lot prettier than when I first used it. Actually, I grabbed this screenshot from an older OS, actually, thinking about it, because you can see the older style loading bars. Mac moves a lot with the times with the OSs. This is a personal thing. I prefer this one. There's lots of tools that do similar things, but this is my tool and I prefer it. Well, not my tool, but Grand Perspective. So it's free, simple. It's a nice way to see where your hard drive space has been used up. It isn't pretty. I will give you that. You can change the theme, but you can't change all of the colours. I assume because it tries to go so deep into all the individual files that you only be able to set so many colours before you start going nuts anyway. But one of the things actually think of that. It's not great. That is the default colours. So actually, that's a fair point. So
red brown, right?
It's really cool. I mean, good example there was that was my laptop, and there's Xcode at 7.5 gig. Which seriously makes me think that do I use it enough to warrant it living on my hard drive permanently?
You deserve a bigger drive.
Actually, I have to confess, I was spot when I got my new laptop. Got 500 gig SSD. Brilliant. So many VMs running at once. Very productive. In all seriousness, a very productive system. Because I quite like to strip out some of the unrequired stuff, say on an OS, server OS, things like your voices. I mean, it's a server, you're not going to use it to listen to voices and speech, really. So this is a nice tool to see where some of the space has been used up, and you can pull some of that down. A little side note from El Capitan with Sept. You cannot. I used to remove things like chess and DVD player from Mac servers I'm installed in because server. Any Apple apps in the applications folder can't be removed or hidden. Just a little FYI. So I might have to retire my use of this in that particular scenario. But it's still good to see if you've got a hard drive full and see what the hell's going on with it. As you boot from another disk, that's cheating, really.
What's going to happen if you upgrade?
If you upgrade, Sept takes control. By default, it's on.
So it's going to bring
I won't bring it back, no. Oh, yes, it will, because it's a fresh OS in regards to that folder. But then I tend not to do upgrades on servers, generally speaking. I tend to do a migration sort of thing. I don't want to give it any more reason to break than it already has. This is a favourite. It's a big favourite from one of our service desk guys. As I'm not so much on the service desk, I don't use it so often. But it's free. It's a recurring theme with a lot of my stuff tonight. Almost all of them are free. You've got tons and tons of options for cache cleaning, maintenance, pruning certain bits and pieces. One requirement is you must download the correct version for the OS you're running. So for example, for Yosemite you want version 3, which when I did these slides I was on Yosemite, so this will be for version 3. There is actually an El Capitan one, I believe it's either just out of beta or about to come out of beta. But yeah, I mean, lots of pretty boxes and tick boxes, so you can delete all certain caches you want. You can run the OS X scripts that it's supposed to run itself. Those run at certain time periods, normally early hours of the morning, so if you've got something like a laptop that's closed or powered down, it's not going to run them so often. And they just do little Apple recommended maintenance-y things. And this is just a way to sort of manually run those, really. Don't run it on the server. What experience have you had? Ask the audience. The wiki. Oh. I have to be honest. I've worked. We have so many issues with wiki server in. Yeah, and most do with upgrades actually. Fun enough, you kind of, if you leave it, it's normally okay. But then if you start upgrading it for OS revisions, or that's my experience anyway. If you start upgrading it through an OS upgrade, it starts to implode, or Apple have changed how they've arranged things, and it breaks all the links that the customer's done. I tend to stay away from it, I'm afraid. There's a good hint. If you're running wiki server, do not run those. So I mean, you've got a wealth of options. So for example, deleting recent items, things like that. There is actually somewhere in there is the saved application state folder, a lovely folder Apple made that means that apps crash when you log back into the machine. I'm not bitter at all. This is a bit more work to get to, in my opinion, but if you're not too sure about certain tools, you've got screen sharing, network utility, network diagnostics, directory utility, the color picker. These have all moved into system core services. If you want a nice, easy way, arguably just as long way to get to them, it's there. I'm not a fan of that bit of it. You've got things like you can view the man pages in a nice interface. It tends to be a kind of a bucket for kind of grabbing everything else that you might want. I discussed it with one of our service desk guys. What would you kind of use it for? And his main things are kind of random performance issues that customers complain of. Strong caches, preemptive maintenance, easily clearing caches is on my list. Spotlight indexes, it's a nice way that you might have, say, a tier 1/tier 2 who might not be so familiar with the terminal, might not want to be too familiar. Yeah, but you have those staff members sometimes. It's a nice good way of clearing out those caches, clearing out spotlight, things like that. Another good one is the launch service database, which is telling which applications which launch applications. So knock, word, things like that. You can reset that through this as well. And it's just something else. If you weird issues, troubleshoot, and you can just pay for the machine, which is a nice generally. But if you don't want to do that, it's another thing to try. Really. ANS, which I have to be very careful about pronouncing. Apple's push notification service. Saying you had a few times quickly, you'll do that in front of the customer. Some of you rather than being a true push. Because yeah, true push wouldn't work if the machine isn't listening. So that's kind of the way it listens out. These are tools for troubleshooting that, and I actually used some of these this week. So obviously, got to put a plug in there. Thanks to Mr. Mallion sitting over in the corner, keeping quiet. This is our services test. It's an iOS app. So if you've got iOS devices, and for whatever reason a customer might not want you put in an OS X device on that same Wi-Fi network. Don't know why. I've had that a few times. You can have it on your phone, an iPad, whatever. You can hook it up, and you can just run some basic ping checks. I'm afraid it isn't free, 79p. But it's cheap, pretty cheap. So that's some examples of the ports it can test and the communication to the Apple servers. You've got some predefined bits and pieces in there. So you've got OS X, Casper, and AirWatch. And you can also add your own with the edit button. So if you've got your own bespoke solution, or say if those ports change in the future and you don't want to wait for an update, you can do that, change them, whatever. So it's quite handy just to quickly fire out a quick test. And at least you say to the customer, like, look, this bit's blocked, fix it. To the networking guys. Be a bit politer. But yeah, that's generally what you can do. Another similar tool, Push Diagnostics from Two Canoes. This one's an OS X app. This one's free. It allows you to test Apple's MDM system from OS X rather than iOS. So this doesn't give you that much detail really, but the one advantage it does have, it can send itself a push notification within the app. So you can actually test the full process. Now I have had this particular app, I've had our app work fine, I've had push stuff work fine, but intermittently I've had this sometimes go red. I don't know whether that's Apple throttling the connections, or I've given it to a customer, they've clicked it 5 times and then it's gone red, and I've come over and gone click and it's worked. But kind of test it a few times, make sure, basically as soon as you can get that test push, it's all working. You can actually click on these when they go red to say what the actual failure was. Again, just another nice thing. There's very particular use cases, but it's handy for those use cases. And it was those 2 apps I was using this week up in university up in Manchester that was having issues with MDM pushing on a certain student Wi-Fi network. But it's working fine on the main network and on the staff connection. So I can at least do this, give them feedback and say, that bit's working, but your communication to Casper isn't working, so that's your issue. You need to troubleshoot the connection between those 2. It's just another little tool. Right, so that's kind of it for kind of troubleshooting E, although some of these do kind of border both bits. This is kind of more resources. You guys are part of the Mac admin community. You know we're all quite a friendly bunch, good at sharing. Some of us like to show off a bit. Not me normally, says the guy doing the talk. So it's kind of a lot of standing on the shoulders of giants in that respect. Not so much the first half of this, but more the second half. So first things first, apps. So what apps would be handy for resources? And most of you could probably guess this, but Mac Tracker. It's got Mac App Store apps. You can download it straight from the website. It's got iOS apps, and it's free. If you want to know something about an Apple product, it's got it. Every Apple hardware product, I believe, and all the OS X's and iOS's, things like that. So example, there's MacBook Pros. I think we have a moth on the thing. Or fly. There you go, got it. The weird shadow just appeared. What the hell's that? So, need to know how much RAM the machine can take. Need to know the minimum max that can take a certain OS, which is also comes up on your ACTC courses, so it's also quite handy for that. What version of Bluetooth does an iMac come with? For example, for handoff, the new feature of passing off to the apps from iOS X and iOS, you need version 4 minimum, which I didn't get a screenshot of. I suck. Yeah, so it does have a section on there for like the Bluetooth version, that kind of thing. So if you're ever in doubt on a machine, what OS it's shipped with, or just details about the minimum requirements for an OS, you can find out about it.
And if you want to feel old, you can play the startup.
Yes. There is an option in there where you can play the startup chimes. I might do that after this talk. I almost did it straight then. You can play the old chimes and some of the old crash tones, or whatever they call them.
You can lose hours
just messing around.
No, it should be working.
It's a great tool. Grab it. The update. The annoying thing is you have to wait for an update for when new kit comes out. But then it does feel like it's 1 or 2 guys, I think, developing it. So they are quick. They're normally definitely within a month, if not within a week. but you do get a little kind of period in the middle where you're like waiting for the information. No, I mean you pay all this free money and you just don't, you get your free service. It's like, can't recommend that enough. This next one was a long time coming. We went through so many solutions for wiki server. Sorry, because we tried internal wiki. The main problems we had is we were out and about. Again, I was in Manchester this week. I'll be in the States next week. It's kind of, we're out everywhere. So having a wiki server that you need an internet connection for isn't really good enough for us. I've been in some places where I've had phones confiscated off me, and I've been kind of stuck with my laptop with no network connections, and you can't have something you need to access internet for a resource. So we use Evernote, syncs across devices, iOS, OS X. Pretty sure it's on Windows and Android as well. You can share notebooks between people, like we have shared notebooks for various bits and pieces. And we kind of bastardized it and used it as a wiki. It can do tags, you can do searching, all kinds of things. For example, this is our technical notebook. This was a discussion, I believe, between myself and Mr. Ackland about, I have a folder of 300 bookmarks of things I want to keep track of and remember. And I've got no way of dealing with it. And you want Evernote first or me? We both had the same problem, but yeah, and it's kind of, you can think, well, how do I search this? I want to add tags, I want to do all kinds of things. Although, in all fairness, the search is quite good on this, we don't actually bother with tags at the moment. But literally, whenever you get a nice blog post, you think, I want to make a copy of that just in case the website goes down or I don't have internet access. We whacked a copy in here. I mean, there's all kinds of random stuff in there. Cryptid, OS X bytes, the Flounder, go Rich Trown. All kinds of random stuff. Anything that could be reasonably related to something we would use in the future, we chuck it in there. I say you can add tags, but to be honest, the search is good enough. You don't really need them, to be honest. But yeah, it's really good. You do use things like formatting. This, for example, was one we pulled together from Crash Plan. We want to make it as core information only as possible. It's one of our how-to guides internally. Yeah. I did get you to check this first. It's just getting sheepish and sort of backing away. But yeah, so it's kind of, so we have like external ones for the blogs, we have internal how-to notes, we have internal notices, that kind of thing. It's a nice way of sharing information out. Again, another good example is we go out on site. We're at 5 consultants now, ish. We have a number of consultants out. But they're out packaging applications, all kinds of bits and pieces. What we were finding is each of us was relearning the same process, or one of us send an email out and go, oh yeah, I did that last week, here's how you do it, and then wasting an hour writing what they were going to do in an email, and then goes into an inbox, gets dealt with, deleted, and then comes up again. So we centralized all of our, it's an ongoing process, never-ending process, and we centralized all of our kind of how-tos and that kind of information internally, and it's now a resource for everyone to go to instead of wasting time repackaging our Office for the 15th time, because it sucks still. There's an update on that, by the way, with Tim Sutton's blog. There's a good blog on the current state of it. But yeah, essentially, it's internal. We use an internal resource. Great tool. Can't recommend it enough. The only one negative I've got on it is it forces you to use their internal chat mechanism when you want to share notebooks, which is a bit annoying. Instead of getting a nice email, you can click a link and add it. You have to kind of go through there. You have to launch the app, go through the chat, and click it. But otherwise, great tool. Absolutely great tool. Another one of my personal favourites, Bing. iOS tool for network checks. You can add notes, export results, all that kind of thing. But essentially, you connect your device, your iOS device, to someone's wireless network, someone who's got approval from on their wireless network. You fire this up, you hit refresh at the top, and it scans. It scans through the IP ranges. It tries to get the information on devices. So sometimes you actually get certain names. It will try and get the MAC addresses, although because Apple started messing around with theirs legitimately.
Well, the MAC address is where it gets the manufacturer.
Yeah, it's where it tries to pull it from. So it gets enough from the Apple ones to get that it's an Apple device. Sometimes even what device it is, or what it'll do is it try and query the device as well to get a name back. You can then go into further information, and more importantly, again, you get permission first, but you can port scan it, all within this little app. So a good example is I'll go on site to do an audit, for example, and they'll have a printer. And it's not any of the standard ports for the config pages, and they don't know their old IT guy used to do it who's now disappeared. So it can port scan, find the funky port it uses, and off you go. You can then start trying all the passwords under the sun on it. But then it's a nice way of doing that for you. You can also use it to audit what services are answering on certain machines. So if you go to a site that's not running Casper and all the machines are answering on SSH, you maybe start asking questions. Might be legitimate reasons, but it's that kind of information that you can kind of analyze and you can export it. You can actually export it as an email to yourself, and you've got a nice record of what you found. It's also a nice way to find out if you're missing anything. Another site I went to, they had a couple of printers in a cupboard somewhere that were on and being used, but no one knew about. This picked up these extra printers. I was like, well, hang on a sec. I can only see 3 printers. You've got 5 or 6. What's going on? And then digging around, managed to find them. So it's quite cool. Again, it has flaws, it has issues, but it's free. It's a very specific use case, but it's good for that use case. Onto this standing on the shoulders of giants. So common blogs and things that I keep an eye on. This list is a very small selection of what I do. I haven't really got the hang of RSS feeds. I might have to sort it out at some point because that'll be a much more productive use of my time. So obviously, got to go. You're in an Amsys thing. I've got to give you an Amsys one. So our site, it's free, simple, it's full of information. We blog regularly on bits and pieces. Definitely wasn't me. That was so we blog about all kinds of bits and pieces. Some of them are end user stuff, which even I read and I go, oh, that's actually really handy. I didn't know that. And some of it's more Mac admin stuff. I tend to, whether by choice or suckered into it, tend to end up doing series on things. I've done a few on Monkey. I've done a few on scripting. Sorry? A few on Firefox. I lose nights over Firefox. Just a few Firefox ones, because every time I release a new version of Firefox, you used to have to lock it down in a completely different way. That wasn't documented anywhere. So it was a fun and games. Actually, funny enough mentioning that, you should actually now use, there's a auto PKG recipe for that, which is maintained by Mr. Monkey himself, Greg Nagel. And if you just use that, the theory being that he will probably fix it if it changes in the future one. You just update the recipe, rerun it, and it will do all the work for you without having to manually do stuff. The other cool thing is each time you get an update, you just rerun the recipe and it will re-inject your settings into it, rather than having to manually do it every single time. I think they're doing updates now like every week or something ridiculous like that. So a bit fun. But yeah, so blogs, that is one of my blogs. It's a new series I've done doing on Deploy Studio basics kind of thing. Highly informative. Sorry, that's the wrong slide. Moving on to the Mac Enterprise mailing list. Made a bit of foobar there. But it is also highly informative. It's another large collection of Mac admins. It does predate the current thing, which is Slack, but it is still widely used. You can sign up to it so you get emails into your inbox. Depends on how you like your inbox, but if you like it full, that's a good thing to do. There's quite a lot of signal there, but it's whether the signal applies to you, I suppose. That's the thing. There's a lot of good information there, but you think I need to remember that for a particular client in the future or something. But I prefer to do it. We could just get emails straight into the notebook. That would be really handy, and just get ignored until you get one little gem. Yeah. But there's a lot of that, and some of them are very interesting to read. But generally speaking, there is a lot of good information in there. I tend to view it through Google Group. Costas. Is he one guy, or is he like 4 guys? Because I see his conversation, not to...
No man could answer that many questions.
But he does know stuff really well, but he seems to ask different questions in different levels. I don't know. But he's a nice guy. So he seems anyway. He's always thankful. But it's a nice little way of just keeping an eye on little bits and pieces. Sometimes you'll see new things from the OS that get people discover listed in there and detailed in there. On a similar vein is the Monkey mailing lists. 2 Monkey mailing lists now there are, is one's dev and one's discuss. Even if you don't use Monkey, a lot of the information in there is gold, particularly around packaging applications in a way that's not stupid, which you tend to get stupid ones from vendors. Not name any more names, but so it's great. You can actually transfer those skills or the stuff you find into your other solutions like Absolute Manage, Casper, ARD if you're still using ARD to manage pushing out software, which is some people have yet to move into the newer stuff that's coming out and want to stick with just the Apple stuff. Fair enough, but it's nice. It gives you nice information in that respect. So that's the dev group, I believe. Yeah, that one's dev group. So that's more about Monkey usage itself, Monkey development, possible bugs, feature discussions, that kind of thing. Originally, this was the only discussion group for that kind of for anything Monkey related. So it's got a lot of older stuff in it. So it still is worth checking in there. The new one's Monkey Discussed, which is more about kind of less devy. It's difficult to describe, but it's definitely about kind of use cases for Monkey. How to do? I want to do X with Monkey. How do I do it? That kind of stuff. Rather than I've installed Monkey and it's redirecting to HTTPS on Yosemite server. I don't know what to do. That is kind of more that kind of stuff, really. Next one, Jamf Nation. Online forum. I will confess, it looks prettier than a Google group or a mailing list, as it's a forum. It's the Jamf guys run it, pay for it, all that sort of stuff. Therefore it's kind of geared more towards the Casper suite for information, questions, that kind of thing. But in the same vein, it's also usable, transferable back into Monkey. I've got to be brutally honest, as much as I do like Casper, Monkey does have a better deployment system. So sometimes you have to jump through a few more hoops with Casper that you don't have to. But still, between the both of them, you get so many good discussions. You made me do it. But in all fairness, they did step up and say, yeah, we'll be a sponsor for the conference later on. So fair play to them. Again, a lot of methods used elsewhere. So it looks a bit prettier. Yeah, so it's another place to just check for bits and pieces. Dave's on there a lot, as is the legend that is Ben Toms, that it's already mentioned about 3 times already today. I do tend to get on there a little bit as well, but I seem to have the same problem that Ben's having, that Dave's already answered most of the questions that I feel I can comfortably answer. But I do pop up on there. Again, it's the same, with the same handles as what we use for Twitter and bits and pieces. The next one I've talked about off and on again a little bit is Slack. Now this, so previously the Mac admin community was mostly an IRC. I don't know whether it's the environment and the way you're looking at it in a window like that. It was a bit hostile. Not as bad as some of the router firmware forums that I've heard about, but it's IRC. I've heard horror stories about that, but it was a little bit hostile. A lot of people now have moved over to Slack, and it's free. I believe at current numbers, we're on about 1,600 members, or I don't know what you call them, members, I guess is probably the best word for it. It's the same sort of vibe as the IRC, but a lot friendlier. It might be because it looks a lot prettier. This is a screenshot done a little while ago, while Mr. Gilbert asking about what's in my box. So sets the tone for the talk very well. Also, that was, I think, the day, that might have been the day that El Capitan came out, because he was doing an upgrade, a rollout. Oh, no, this would have been the day after. He'd already done the majority of his rollout. Likes to live dangerously. But really friendly community. There's there you go, 162, over 162 channels for different areas of conversation. They don't mind you talking about things in the wrong channels, but they do tend to kind of ease you into a more relevant channel that might have people that are more able to answer your issues, your questions, that kind of thing. We were in there a hell of a lot. Charlie used to be in there before she left Amsys. But so there is a London channel, which I'd recommend. It kind of gets. There is a UK one, but the UK one doesn't seem to be used, and the London one just gets used instead. There's a lot of dry British humour, which I'm sure most of you guys are like. There's also a lot of animated pictures going around as well. But there is, if you have any questions, any issues, everyone's really friendly. After about midday-ish, you start getting the Americans coming on as well. Not so much in the London one, but in lots of the other ones. So it's good that if you want to have a quick question with someone, like say you've got a file issue, you want to have a quick clarification from Rich Troughton. Although I don't know if he'll like me touting him out like that. But you can jump in there, ask him a question, see what he says, that kind of thing. But yeah, so we're in there a lot. A lot of the Mac admins are in there as well. I recommend jumping in there. I honestly don't know. It was the same with RC as well. I don't know how people have day jobs and interact with people in here. Because again, Rich Troughton again. You kind of ask him a question. Within 5 minutes, he's giving you he's not just giving you the answer. He's also found the exact blog he did 3 years ago and giving you the link to that and a bit more information as well.
Again, he has probably a team of people.
Just sitting behind. Yeah. That's not a bad thought actually. Yeah, but great. Can't recommend it enough. Jump in there. Don't go through Slack's main page because they'll ask you to set up a whole Slack instance, which is not what you want. Go to that shortcut. It'll ask you to submit your email address. You'll then get a reply saying you're approved. They don't do any sort of approval process. It's just because that's the only way they could get it to work with everyone's random email domains. And there's a web page that works with, I don't know what they call it, but Safari can do notifications in Notification Center from Safari web pages. That works pretty well. But there is iOS apps, there is OS X apps. Because of how big the product is, I'm pretty sure there's probably Windows and Android apps as well. Again, I've just realised I put Jamf Nation on top of that. Drawing attention to it as well. So again, jump in there. If you've got any questions or issues about Macs, it's a great place to discuss it. We actually switched to using it internally for the kind of the service side of things. And it's great if you if you're finding yourself emailing 3 people back and forth more than about 2 or 3 times about a particular project, jump into a Slack channel, make a new Slack channel internally. That's how we do it. And you can discuss it in much cleaner, much quicker responses than waiting for emails to come back and forth. I have found as well some sites I've been to have blocked the desktop app, but the web app works fine. So if you need to be in contact with Greg Neal, not Greg Neal actually, Rich Stratton, you can actually do it for a web page as well. Last one in this section, Apple Knowledge Base. Yeah, it's mostly written for your end users, trying to troubleshoot while their phone isn't working, or while iTunes isn't making their stuff pretty. But there are some good ones for Mac admins, so I'll run through 3 of the ones I've picked that seem to be quite helpful. Regular ports used by Apple's services, Apple stuff. TCP below this has a long table full of all port numbers, what they're kind of used for. It's a great resource for when you say to a networking guy at site, I need this port open for this, and he goes, prove it. You can give him the document, you can give him a specific link. Or you could ask him why he's being such an arse. Another one. Probably the third option of you fancy a beer. Normally works best actually out of everything. Quality Street, beer, coffee, all quite high up there on the list of ways of getting what you need out of people. Another quite good one, especially nowadays, especially with Al-Catan coming out, is to do more with SIP. If you have a netboot server on a different VLAN and you don't do IP helper, first I recommend you do because it just makes your life 10 times easier. But if you do kind of the bless command to reboot to across the VLANs, you will have issues with SIP. I haven't read into it enough to work out the exact issues because I normally insist on an IP helper because it makes everyone's life easier, if I'm honest. But it does have the information there about what you'd need to do to make that available, make that work properly in El Capitan. Last one, NVRAM resets. Okay, really basic, but the SIP settings are stored in your firmware in the NVRAM. So I'm not sure if it's actually mentioned in this one, but if you do need to reset the SIP settings back to on, which is the default, you're supposed to be able to reset the NVRAM to get that back to default. Also quite nice if you're buying a new machine, I guess, of someone, or you're selling a machine, or you've got a machine where you suspect something and you just want to make sure that it's on, you can just reset the PRAM, the NVRAM, nice and quick. Next area, blogs. Again, I've touched on our blogs, so I won't go any further on that one. But again, Mac admins, great community. I have to be honest, I've only worked in Macs all my life, but I don't hear of these kind of communities with any other areas of IT support, that kind of stuff. Almost always, someone else has already had your issues. You already had your issue. So it's always worth a quick Google or a quick check on a few sites. Just go through a few of the recommendations. Ben Toms again, gets everywhere. He's UK based, he's his Mac mule. Doing the donkey work to make you look like a smart ass, so not too bad. Also the developer of the Auto X MBI, Casper MBI, Imager MBI, that kind of stuff. So his blog's always got good information. He also uses, I believe, AirWatch and AD integration, so he has lots of blogs relating to those sorts of areas. Worth a little potter around every so often. Mr. Gilbert, for those of you who don't know him, he's Monkey, he's developed Sal and Crypt, and he's a massive open source nut. Both of those, sorry, I forgot to mention as well, both of those are speaking at Macaduck. as an system calling it. But again, his is quite good for that sort of open source stuff. He's also the key, he's either one of or he's the key developer of the Imager potential Deploy Studio replacement. His argument is that because Deploy Studio is closed source and seems to break with every other OS launch. And require Max hardware, most importantly. Whereas his solution would require a netbook server of some kind, it doesn't have to be a Mac, and a web server of some kind, and that's it. So you could do it on sort of Linux, that kind of stuff. And you can virtualize it, most importantly, properly. So again, another cool blog. The legend, if it's Casper, if it's Farvel, if it's Sophos, or if you just want someone who writes really nice, friendly, simple to follow blogs, the flounder, that's Rich Troughton. US based, he's a documentation nut as well. So he's if anything those sorts of areas, Sophos, because it's repeatedly changing ways of packaging and being required to be packaged and not. He has loads of blogs on that. Again, he uses Casper internally. He's also the developer of the Casper Check solution to fix Macs that have dropped out of Casper for whatever reason, to get them back into Casper automatically for you. Last but not least, Greg Niggle, managing OS X. This is a talk I've actually got a copy of this video sitting on my desktop waiting to be watched. He was at Amsys Admin last week, I think it was. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Monkey, that's his. Crate OS X installer package is his. Reposado, which is the software update server based on Linux, is his little babies. But yeah, his is always fun. You've got loads of information in there. Again, another one that's well worth keeping an eye on. There's so many others, but again, I don't want to sit here just reading off people's blogs and say, check this out, and be pointless. On the subject of conferences, great way to meet other Mac admins. There's definitely a big social element there as well. I know that I'll be going off to JNUC next week, to Jamps one, and I'm going to have to owe a lot of people over there quite a few beers for solutions they've developed that I've used or favours they've done. It's a great way to meet other Mac admins as well, and also a great way to pick their brains as well, to be honest. But also, it's quite good to kind of just get new ideas, new thoughts. One of the other London Mac admins who's not here tonight is, for example, he's done a vending machine for MacBooks rentals. He did speak on that at a conference a little while ago, and it was really informative, really good. It starts making you think, actually, that might work for us. He works at university, and what they've done is they've got rid of all of their kind of library Macs and PCs, and just have these vending machines and chairs and sofas and whatever. User rents it for 4 hours, puts it back. It's just a nice, new ideas, different ideas, things you might not have thought of yourself. Or you've heard of them and you don't know what they do, so you can go to a conference or someone might be doing a talk on it, that kind of thing. So working through the list, I've sort of picked 4 that are probably most well known. Definitely do have some of the coolest videos coming out about them. Almost all of these, if not all of these, they share their videos on YouTube or their own sites pretty soon after. So if you don't get to go to them, you can still get the content. So this is around June every year. Last year was around 60 sessions. I believe Mr. Atkins spoke last year's one as well. It was Penn State you spoke at, wasn't it? This year. Well, yeah, the one that's done this year, they've done this year's one, but the one that was on this year, Dave spoke at. So feel free to jump on there, grab the video, and watch it a couple of times. Yearly conference in Penn State, USA, around the end of June. Again, links, Twitter. Jamf Nation, JNUC even, Jamf Nation user conference. Again, based on Jamf, you will not get any monkey there, I'm afraid. But sounds like a dodgy name for some drugs or something. But it's there's transferable information in there that's nice to see and good to see. It's around October every year, so this year is next week. It's free. You have to pay for your flights and hotel there, I'm afraid. It's the only conference on this list that is free. But then because you're paying for flights and hotel, it works out about the same. I don't know. I'll find out after next week. David's speaking at this year's one as well. So again, URL for this year's one and the Twitter link. Unfortunately, they are fully booked for this year, but I know they're operating a kind of a waiting list. But then again, it starts on Tuesday next week. So if you get a place, it'll be some very rushed booking of flights and cover for your place of work. So again, it's in Minneapolis in America. Amsys Admin. This finished 2 weeks ago now. It was last week when I wrote this. It's now 2 weeks ago. It's in Europe. It's in Sweden. So it's at the moment it's the only one that's really, or the main one over this side of the pond. All your favourite Mac admins were there. Rich. I'm getting there. Spoilers. I couldn't find a Twitter handle for them. I thought it'd be nice and try and share everyone's sort of communications, but I couldn't find one for them. On their site, they do actually have the videos up now, and you can actually just literally right-click, download them. So, for example, again, I got the train down from Manchester today. I had 3 videos laying on my laptop, desktop, so fired it up and watched a few of them. And some really, really cool stuff. Again, some of it's educational, just in its own right, and some of it's just different ways of looking at a problem you've got. Have to announce it, or not announce it, have to talk about it. Mac Admin and Developer Conference. Hardly mentioned it, yeah. We're kind of proud of it because it's kind of the first big one in the UK. We managed to get some really good names on it. Again, the 4 people whose blogs I talked about are all speaking, amongst many, many others. It's going to be February next year. Register via the website to get updates and bits and pieces. We're trying to make it, it's the first thing we're trying to do, that's kind of this scale. So we want to kind of make it easily accessible for people in London, and London especially because it's in London, but in England as well, kind of in the UK, where they might not be able to get overseas on work budgets, but they might be able to get a conference that's not overseas, essentially. So yeah, please go. That's the register link. I'm working on getting rubber ducks involved somewhere, because the Macaduck, which was coined by one of the other Mac admins as a bit of a Mick Tank, but actually fits quite well. So had to put the image in there, I'm afraid. So that's kind of it. I've tried to not make it me just spinning out a list of URLs and names of things, but essentially it's a lot of free tools. You don't have to pay for all of them, just to have a nice selection of tools to use. There's lots of support for the Mac admins community in various different ways. It's a large community, it's a great community, everyone's really friendly. Yeah, lots of conferences, get out there and get involved. I'll definitely recommend getting involved, especially on Slack, 'cause it's a nice easy one. Everyone's there, everyone's friendly. And it's just let's be honest, sometimes Apple leave us in the dark on bits and pieces of how we should be doing certain things. Slack's a nice place for us all to gather and decide what should be the correct way in that respect. As I promised, that's the link for the blog, or that's a nice tiny URL to go to. All that we'll have is just a list of the things I've talked about with any URLs that are relevant to them, if you wish. Thanks for coming, and listen to me ramble on for 59 minutes and 30 seconds. Cheers, thanks very much, guys. Before I wrap up, is there any questions that aren't too difficult that I could probably answer? Bearing in mind you stopped me from grabbing a beer, so not too long ones.
Good.
If not, feel free to grab me afterwards, or any of these sort of events or anything like that.
Okay,
Mr. Holt.